Students, I hope you will be watching the video lectures and taking down the notes with the help of those lectures. Now, I'm going to start Kamla Das. The video lectures which I am creating for you will be beneficial for you in this period of lockdown when classes are not running. Then at least with the help of these video lectures, you can make notes and understand the poems also which are prescribed in your course. Now, 3 poems of Kamla Das are prescribed in the course: My Grandmother's House, A Hotnoon in Malabar, and The Sunshine Cat. So I'll provide you the detailed analysis of these poems. But before that, I'll give you a brief introduction about the poet, major characteristics of her poetry, major themes, and then I'll come to the poems. So this, the first video lecture is in the form of introduction, a brief introduction about the poet. Then in the next video, I will discuss some important features of the poetry of Kamla Das. Now, maybe you have already studied Kamla Das, but when you read Kamla Das, a kind of image which comes before us is of a rebel, is of an iconoclast, is of a non-conformist, is of a frank and candid personality, because she deals with some unconventional themes in her poetry very candidly. Now, one of the important post-independence Indian English poets. She was born in southern Malabar in 1934. She's a poet, she's a short story writer. As in the case of other Indian English poets, she's a bilingual writer, wrote in English and Malayalam. She's received many awards for her excellent writing that I'll tell you later. She received Kerala Sahitya Academy Award in 1969 for her collection of Malayalam short stories. She wrote in English. Most of her poems are written in English. About her choice of English as a medium, she says in one of the poems, and this poem is one of the representative poems of Kamla Das. The lines from the poems are: I'm Indian, very brown, born in Malabar. I speak 3 languages, write in 2, dream in 1. The language I speak becomes mine, its distortions, its squareness, all mine, mine alone. This was actually her statement in one of the poems regarding English as a medium. Now, her popularity in Kerala is chiefly based on her short stories and autobiography, while her ova, you just look at the word, maybe if you're not familiar, O-E-U-V-R-E. Ova is actually a word which is sometimes asked in some competitive examinations, also in the language portion. Over is one's a total output For example, when we say Shakespeare's over, it means all the literary works of Shakespeare. So, her over in English, written under the name Kamla Das, is noted for her poems and also for her frank, candid, and explicit autobiography. She was also a widely read columnist and wrote on various subjects, including women's issues, childcare, politics, etc. Now, she lived in multitudes. She spoke and wrote across languages, as I told you that she wrote in English and Malayalam. And she gave herself various names. She took many names, and this question was asked many times in different competitive examinations, especially in UGC NET examination. So you just concentrate on that, listen to this attentively. She took on the name Das after marriage, when she became Kamla Das. She is also Kamla Suraiya, the name she took after converting to Islam in 1999. Once this question was asked, that which Indian English poetess was converted to Islam, she became Kamla Suraiya. She is also Madhavi, the pseudonym she gave herself when writing in Malayalam, so Madhavi. And finally, she is also Ami, A-M-I, Ami, a pet name she reserved for herself in her memoirs. So she is Kamla Das, she is Kamla Suraiya, she is Madhavi, she is Ami. So these are, some objective type, answers which you must remember, maybe if you're appearing for the competitive examinations. Now, when you talk about the family background of Kamla Das, it was very rich. She took to writing like her mother. Her great uncle Nalapat Narayan Menon, he was also a very prominent writer, and he laid a great influence on her personality. She fell in love with poetry from a very early age. At the age of 15, she was married to one Madhav Das, a banker by profession. He also encouraged her to write, though marital relationships were not healthy, that you will come to know later. Now, her candid and honest treatment of female sexuality, free from any sense of guilt, filled her writing with power, and she got hope after freedom. The kind of picture which I have just told you emerges is of an iconoclast. She's an iconoclast, rebel, non-conformist, frank, candid, or using K. Srinivas Iyengar's words, aggressively individualistic. This was actually the phrase which has been used by K. Srinivas Iyengar. Aggressively individualistic in her generation. Now, she was the first woman who started talking about sex very candidly and frankly and very negatively of marriage in a society, in that typical Indian society which is very conservative. When she published her autobiography, My Story, where she has dealt all these issues, it drew criticism, and critics attack on her. People attacked on her, and they said that the text is very obscene, very vulgar. So the charges of vulgarity and obscenity were laid on her, especially in the case of My Story, which is her autobiography. Now, a biopic was also made on her. A biopic. The title of that biopic was Ami, and which was directed by Kamala, and it was released on February 9, 2018. Now we are living in an era of technology, and nobody can. I mean, all of you. I think you are guided by your Google, guru. So when you say Google Guru, I think you'll be familiar with Google Doodle also. You see doodles there. Uh, Her works, the works of Kamla Das, have inspired a Google Doodle in the year 2018, celebrating the 42 years since my story first went to press. The doodle pictured Kamla Das against a radiant purple background that fades to black as flowers emerge and bloom from city houses. You can Google and you can find out the doodle which was made in 2018. There was a vacuum in the field of, in the domain of literature, when on 31st May 2009, aged 75, Kamla Das died at a hospital in Pune. I told you in the beginning that she received many awards. In 1963, she received PEN Asian Poetry Prize. 1968, she received Kerala Sahitya Academy Award for Story. 1984, she was shortlisted for the prestigious Nobel Prize in Literature. 1985, Kendriya Sahitya Academy Award. 1988, Kerala State Film Award for Best Story. So, I mean, for her best work, for her best creations, she received many awards. In 1976, as I told you, her autobiography, My Story, was published. Two collections of short stories were published. One in the year 1977, A Doll for the Child Prostitute, and 1992, Padmavati the Harlot and Other Stories. Now, some collections of poems which were published were in 1964. The Sirens was published. 1965, Summer in Calcutta was published. Summer in Calcutta is that collection of poems from which most of the poems of Kamla Das are taken, which are some of those poems are prescribed in a course. And then 1967, The Descendants was published. 1973, The Old Playhouse and Other Poems. 1977, The Stranger Time. 1979, Tonight, The Savage Rite, that was in collaboration with Priti Nandi. 1984, Collected Poems. 1985, the Annamalai Poems. 1997, Only the Soul Knows How to Sing. 1999, My Mother at 66. And 2001, Ya Allah. So this was actually the biographical and the literary journey of the poet. In my next video, I'll tell you some important features of the poetry of Kamla Das and some major themes which are discussed by the poetess in her poetry.